All right, guys, good morning and welcome. Thanks for coming today. This event is being hosted at the River City Christian Ministries. Two of our members, Candy Donaldson and Lewis, is going to come up and they're going to talk about interviewing skills, talk about some basic resume skills. So also, if you missed this, you'll get to see it online. Before we get started, we'll go ahead and pray, and then we'll let you guys take some time to get some of the snacks. So let's pray. Dear God, thank you so much for today, God. Thank you for just giving us members of the church, God, that not only use their talents for them professionally, but they use it as a personal sacrifice to give, God, as you would have them give. God, I pray that we can all use our talents to help other people. God, I pray that this session is helpful for them and for all who will watch it. Thank you for the food, Lord. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Good morning. So my name is Candy Donaldson, and this is my friend, Lewis. And we're going to do a class today on interviewing skills and what companies are looking for in employees. Before we get started, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about ourselves. So, like I said, I'm Candy Donaldson. I am a government operations consultant, which basically means I work in HR. I've been working for the government for 5 years, but I have been interviewing for roughly 10 or so years. I've worked in the private sector, and I've interviewed for foster care workers, government workers, scientists, you name it, I've seen it. So just want to give an overview of different things that I've observed through the years and do's and don'ts for any age range when you're interviewing for a position.
Hi all, my name is Lewis, and I have been a recruiter for the past 4.5 years. I currently recruit for IT and then also healthcare, and then I also have a background in customer service recruiting as well. With recruiting, of course, there are interviewing, preparing candidates for the interview, and then also conducting the interview as well for the past 4.5 years.
All right. So we'll just start off with completing the application. So many times I've seen people not complete an application fully. Right?
Correct, yes.
Leaving blank spaces. So this is what that says to me. You don't care enough to finish the application, but this is how it affects you. Some people, a lot of times in this day and age, use automated services that scans applications for them, because when you get applications, you may get hundreds of applications in, and you can't go through all of them. So when I do my job requisitions, I don't know about you all, I have automatic disqualifying questions. So if you don't fill out the application completely or take the time to go all the way through, you may automatically be disqualified. You may have great credentials, you may have a great resume, but because you were lazy and didn't fill out the application completely, you may go into the automatic disqualifier box. Now, I know sometimes we'll go through our automatic disqualifier if we have slim pickings, just to make sure that somebody didn't get thrown in there that we might be interested in, but a lot of times that's not going to happen. So you don't want to be lazy and not complete the application. I know a lot of sites like LinkedIn will fill out an application for you based off of what information you have on there, but you kind of are running the risk when you do that because it may not fill in all the information.
Yes,
so
it's always best to go on the company's website to fill out the application thoroughly. Also, when filling out the application, you just want to make sure that you read through the questions as well thoroughly, because you could answer a question wrong and that may put you in the disqualifier box. Also, when filling out the application, make sure you submit the application, because that also goes into the incomplete file, to where then you call us a month later and say, oh, I applied, what happened to my application? You didn't submit it. So that's always something to remember as well, is to submit the application and read thoroughly through all the questions to make sure that you're answering them the correct way.
Okay. I kind of complete an application, the cover letter and the resume kind of, go all together. I don't know how you feel about cover letters. For me, it's not a necessity.
Same.
However, if you're going to do a cover letter, this is what I've seen. I've seen people that have just been applying for, they may apply for a large amount of jobs at one time. They may just be going through the motion. but they haven't changed their cover letter.
Right.
So I have a position for an environmental scientist, and your cover letter says, my passion is to be a great healthcare administrator. Like,
that doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And so immediately, you go into
Disqualified.
the disqualified pile because you didn't even take the time to know what job you were applying for.
Right.
Also, do some research about the position that you're applying for. If you're going to apply for multiple positions, make sure that you're making a note of what position that you applied for. And also, if you get a call back for an interview, make a note of what company called you back, because I need you to know what job you're applying for, and you not be asking me questions about the job as if you have no idea once you're in the middle of the interview.
Yes, that does happen. Also, if you are a cover letter person and you do have multiple different credentials, again, just do separate cover letters to know what it is that you are applying for that can align with the job that you're looking for. You may be certified in 5 different jobs, but if you're just using one cover letter, that's not really narrowing it down to, per se, what a recruiter or what a hiring manager is looking for.
Yes, because it's been times where the cover letter kind of was a determining factor, because usually we're looking for a specific person for a specific job, but there's times when their credentials may not match up, but their cover letter could be used as a tool to explain why they may fit the position, even though they may not have the exact credentials that we aren't looking for. So there's been times that's happened where, like I said, I hire environmental scientists. I've had people that came in that didn't have an environmental science degree. They may have came in as an intern or a temporary employee, and then they want to apply for full time. Well, their cover letter kind of explained to me why they would be a good fit for my position, even though they don't have the credentials. So it all works together. So it's not a necessity to have the cover letter, but if you're going to use it, make sure that you use it properly and do it thoroughly. So in your packet, there's an example
Of a resume.
This was a student resume. To me, less is more.
One page.
One page.
If you can keep it at one page.
If for the younger audience, if you're a student, you want to make sure that you have, your education. You want to put what you studied in school that may pertain to that position that you're applying for. Internships, volunteer work, that kind of stuff. Nice and simple. If you're a more experienced worker, I don't need your 20-year work history.
Very true.
Some people say 10 years, but maybe like
I would say 5 to 7.
5 to 7,
honestly.
yeah, really. Less is more. Because for me, if I see someone that has had 10 to 15 jobs, to me that means you don't commit and you're not going to stay.
That's very true. And then also, in recruiting or hiring managers, we skim through resumes. So we're not reading your full resumes.
Right.
We're skimming through it, looking for keywords that you put on there to make sure that it's aligned with the job that you are applying for. So if you have 15 jobs listed on there, I'm not looking at all 15 jobs. I'm really looking at the work history from those jobs that you put on there, and then looking at keywords that that's going to be in the resume. So that was a good setting point. When you are putting jobs on there, also make sure you put your most recent one first. I know a lot of people, I don't know why, but they like to do it backwards.
Right.
You're going to say, I started here in 1999.
Right.
And I went from 2000, and then it goes, and then your most recent job is way at the end. That's automatically putting you in a disqualifier, because I'm not trying to look at your jobs from 1999. I'm trying to look at your most recent jobs. So you always want to put that first in there. And then also with your objective, you want to make sure that your objective, also like a cover letter, aligns with what jobs you are applying for. Please do not put in your objective that you are looking for a position that is, you're looking to be an RN, but you're applying to an assistant nurse manager role. But your objective says that you're just looking for a registered nurse role. So that's telling me that you're not updating your resume from the line of work that you're now trying to pursue.
Right. Also, never, ever, ever use a resume from a website. Don't lie on your resume. Make sure that your timelines add up.
Yes.
Yes, we're busy, and yes, we may be going through a lot, but sometimes it's that one that catch your eye and you're like,
this does not match. So it's like that, because when you're doing the application, you putting your jobs on the application sometimes, and then you're also uploading a resume. So if we're comparing the two and they don't match, that's an automatic, I'm no longer considering you for the position. Although your application might look good, then I look at your resume and it's not matching, it's not aligned.
Or you're a student. What?
Is it necessary to have an objective?
Not necessarily.
I would say it all depends on the job that you're going after. It's really objective is really just a summary of the job that you want. So it's not
cover letter.
yeah.
Right.
So it's not necessary, especially if you do have a cover letter. But either or, it's really not. It's just a way to short sell yourself before we get to your job history. That's really what it is. You're just short selling yourself, like, I'm excellent in XYZ. Like, look at these keywords in my objective / cover letter is what it's for.
And also, you know, we're not allowed initially, I can't ask you what your age is, but if I see that you're a senior in college, but on your resume, I'm looking at all this extensive history, work history and experience, I'm like, maybe not. So, I mean, I say all that to say that if you're being interviewed, most times your HR professionals are experienced. We've been doing this for a while. We know when you're not being truthful. We know when it's something that we're just like, And so you don't want to get, even if that's not your intention, make sure that your information lines up so that you're not just discarded because you seem a little shaky.
Yes. And although if you're that one person that your messed up resume automatically gets through and your jobs just do not align, jobs verify jobs. I want y'all to know that jobs do verify jobs. They do not just go by what's on your resume. If you get hired for a job and you're putting your jobs in, they're getting verified, and it's not just a call to where we're gonna call your old job and you put some random phone number on there to say, hey friend, play that you were my boss. It's not gonna work that way. It's actually just, we verify through an automated system. It's a new day and age, so your jobs will get verified. Yes.
So my first job, like when I was there, like a bunch of the managers that we had when I worked there, they aren't there anymore. And now, like, it's been like 3 years since I've been there. So I don't know anybody that would be there that can verify
It's with
my work ethic. So how would I put that on my resume?
It's not a call that anyone makes to verify your job.
Okay.
It's through an automated system to where
Okay.
every job has a job verification phone number.
Yeah.
Every job has one. So you
Yeah.
call that job verification number, and then that's how you get your employment history.
Yeah.
Or they verify it through the computer system if you're going through. And then if you're a person that your job does not align and you think, oh, now I got this job, that job is gone. Because no company is wanting to continue with employment if your jobs do not align with what you said that you had. Or that can affect your pay. If you were paid a certain amount based off of your experience, now your pay can potentially drop because you said you worked here for 5 years and you only worked there for 6 months.
Thank you.
And I mean, that's not set in stone, but I wouldn't risk it.
Yeah, don't risk it. Just
I wouldn't risk
put,
it. Very
be truthful
rarely.
on your resume. If you felt like you worked somewhere and you're like, oh, I was only there for 6 months, but let me put that I was there for a year just to give myself like a little boost.
Right.
Don't risk it.
Don't do that.
How do you fill in gaps? Maybe you worked somewhere 10 years and then you took 2 years off and now I'm gonna go back and work. How do you fill that in? Because people are wondering, well, what happened to them for 2 years?
Yeah. I suggest on your resume, just also depending on what line of work, if you're just trying to go into like entry level, a company may feel that, okay, let's call this person and see what's been going on. But also, you can put on your resume reasonings for your gap. Like under the dates that you were there and then you have another job on top, you can just put under your dates like the reason for your gap.
Like, or that's when you can utilize your cover letter. Like I see a lot of people that went out of the workforce because they wanted to raise their kids, and then they're just come back. And so in their cover letter, they'll say, have been out of the workforce for 10 to 15 years, now wanting to get back in, my kids are grown. Like you can explain, that is where you would utilize things like your cover letter, and also you can put it on your resume. Like if you already know that that's going to be a thing on your resume, use that to explain. So that's why I said cover letters aren't a definite, but that would be a time when you should definitely use one and explain, because I see that a lot. They've raised their families, now they're ready to get back into the workforce, utilize a degree that they've had for a long time, or you've had people that have worked at a company for 25 years and then it shuts down, and now they need another job because they don't have the ability to retire, or they're not ready to retire, and so, you know, those kinds of things, that's when you would explain that in your cover letter. That would be a good time to do that.
Me, I'm not a cover letter person, so I was out of work for a year and a half because I wanted to raise my child for a bit. So on my resume, I just inserted below my job of reasons why I have this gap. So then you can see to whereas, okay, when someone calls me for a phone interview, they already know why I have this gap in employment. So they already have the idea. It's like, oh, okay, I don't really need to ask her about this because it's already on her resume. So that's something to keep in mind. If you have a bunch of gaps and then someone calls you and then they're talking to you about it, then you start, well, I don't know. What did happen between that time? Let me think about it. Like, I don't remember, like, why did I leave? Like, no, it's always have yourself prepared. So it's always good to already have that information on your resume and or on your cover letter.
Right. So next, I think we'll talk about social media and candidate selection kind of together. So you have an example in your packet, common social media mistakes. So I'll say this about social media. The first thing you can do that makes it very simple is keep your page private. That's a simple solution. If you know that you want to post craziness, keep your pages private. Hopefully nobody in here is doing that because we all attend RCC and we're not doing those things, right? Okay, but if you're gonna have social media, you have to be mindful that is a imprint that is there forever. All it takes is one share, one screenshot, it's there forever. So you have to be mindful of what you post on social media, even just looking forward into the future. If you know that you wanna be somebody else later, and it seems like maybe I shouldn't post it, don't post it. Not all employers look at your social media, but some will. And they may not do it in official capacity. Sometimes if I was reading somebody's resume and I was like, let me see what they're about. Sometimes I might just do it just being nosy.
Let me look them up on Facebook.
And even though it's not gonna be written down officially in my notes, I've gone and looked at your social media and I'm like, and you on there, and you bent over and you drinking and I got a professional company, you partied last night. You was out all night long. So, you know, and then I might see that and then I'm like, let's go to my boss. Look, you think you don't want to be here? It happens. So you have to be mindful of what you're posting. Not even just partying, your social and political views, things that you say. You have to be careful because you never know who is going to look. You never know where you might want to go in the future. You never know how that might come back to bite you in your behind. So you have to be careful. There's nothing wrong with you having social media, but as you become an adult, you need to understand that this is an imprint that will stay with the world. And people, internet sleuths are the best. You can find it. I know. If you want to find it, you will find it. So you need to be aware of what you're doing at all times. However, if you're just insistent on you need some form of social media, LinkedIn is great. Everybody college age and up should have a LinkedIn profile. You need to have a professional, which I also have a nice little example for you.
Oh my God. If you don't have one, I encourage you to make a LinkedIn profile. Even if you're just a student right now, it is great to have one because you can network around people. And then when you are looking for a job, you're like, oh, I'm connected with so-and-so already on LinkedIn. Let me send them a quick message to see if they have anything available. So LinkedIn is your friend. It honestly is.
How often should I update my LinkedIn account? Because I've had it for years and I don't know.
Have you updated it since you had a new job?
No.
You should update it.
You should update if you get a new job. You should always update your LinkedIn.
Credentials within your job. trainings,
Right.
certifications that you
If
get.
you're going through any of that, add
Because
that on
people
there.
look at LinkedIn. Now, a lot of times, if they're not just being nosy and trying to see what they won't go to your regular social media, but they're going to look at your LinkedIn, whether you are trying to be looked at or not. Professional people will look at it. Recruiters look at it.
Yes.
Um,
For passive searches. So even if
Right.
you're not looking for a job and I'm looking for people, I can go
Right.
on your LinkedIn and say, oh, she got all the skills. Let me send her a quick message to see. You might not be interested now, but you could
Right.
be interested in a month or two. You just never know. So it's always good to have your LinkedIn profile updated to what's current, your certifications, your skill sets.
Yes.
That's always best because you just never know. That new job might be around the corner.
Right.
Just when someone passes.
And make those connections. Make those connections with people. Because like she said, they may have a position opening. There's a lot of interesting articles, business related articles, things that are going on. I follow Jamie on LinkedIn. He has good stuff all the time. Stuff that like I find out about his promotions or things that he's done or traveling that he's not going to talk about, just in normal conversation, but because I see his stuff, his professional career on LinkedIn, like I know these things about him. I look at his connections, and if somebody's connected to him, I might can get connected to them, and then that somebody's talking about you in a room. So it's just a great platform to use social media wise.
Yes.
Great
Great to connect with people you don't know,
Right.
honestly, because whatever job you're looking for, you can type in that job in the search bar on LinkedIn, and a bunch of people will pop up. You're like, let me add all these people because
Right.
I'm trying to get in this field. So then you'll see their post of what they're having or like their job getting open, and you're like, oh,
Right.
I can apply to this because now I know that they have an opening probably before they even post it on their job boards. A lot of people post things on LinkedIn before they post it on regular job boards just to see if they can get some engagement from there.
Yep. And you can get verified on LinkedIn. So like if you say that you're a public speaker and you've spoken at different events, somebody will go in and verify that or vouch that you are a good public speaker. So you
Yeah.
get these verifications and that just builds your resume more. So it's a great tool to use. Highly recommend.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought you had a question.
And this is, I think, where I fall short. I've had a LinkedIn, I don't know how many years. I couldn't even tell you if I can get into it. And,
You can do it.
but it's just crazy because now that you say that, I'll get like notifications
Mm-hmm.
that this person's following you on LinkedIn. And knowing them, my professional career now, where I'm trying to go, the people that, when I'm looking at positions in the company I work for, the positions I'm like would be interviewing with the higher execs. Like I'm not interviewing with just a little hiring manager, no
Yeah.
shade to the hiring manager,
Right.
but these are big time people. So now that's a very good point because I don't even know what
And
is
a
on
lot of
my
people
LinkedIn.
they don't think
Yeah.
about it, but LinkedIn is
You
like,
have to treat it like Facebook.
it's
honestly,
yes,
it's a professional
really
Facebook.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. And I learned that at a professional progress class, the marketing exec at the news station, she was like,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this is the most important social media tool you can use
It
as a
is.
professional.
Yeah.
I get on LinkedIn more than I get on
I do every
anything
day.
else.
Yeah.
Every day I'm checking my LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You never know who you're going to connect with. It might be someone, even if like I said, even if you're not looking for a job, or even if it's someone that they see you work somewhere, and when someone sends you a connect on LinkedIn, they can send you a little message. So it can be like, hey Petron, I see you're working at XYZ.
Yep.
I got a couple questions for you. You think we can connect so we can talk a little bit about it? So it's just building that network and engaging with other people that might have an interest in what you're doing, or they think that you might have an interest elsewhere just based off
that
your
you meet professionally
profile.
along the line,
Yeah.
make a connection with them, to keep in contact with them. That's how I keep in contact with a lot of people like I met during different classes and certifications, and it's a good tool. And it falls to the wayside because people don't think about it as being social media, but
Yeah.
it is. It's a news feed, and you
Yeah.
can like
True.
and love
Yeah.
just like you do on
Yeah.
Facebook.
You can connect with someone
Except
that
it's-
started off as just like a regular employee, and then over time you see that
You can
they
see the
progress. Now they're like a director, and they're reaching out
Right.
to you, say,
Yeah.
hey, I'm now the director at XYZ company. I see you doing this. How would
Right.
you like to talk to me about some positions that I have?
Right.
You know, things. It just really builds up
Yeah.
your network for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yes.
I don't know if y'all are gonna say you wanna go from one industry to another, what tips can you provide? So, like say, I don't know, you're going from corporate America to healthcare. I mean, I don't know, like, what tips can you provide? Yes, I'm trying to jump industries, so I wanna know.
That was a good question.
Okay, I think jumping industries is not a bad thing. Honestly, it's something anyone can do. Your resume just reflects you as a person in your jobs. So if you are trying to apply to something now in healthcare, but your whole resume is corporate America, just look for keywords in healthcare that you can put on your resume that will align with your corporate America jobs. So they'll see like, okay, like she has these skills and they also align with healthcare skills. So it's just understanding keywords in that sense, to where if you do go get certified or go to school for something in the healthcare field, but your whole background is corporate America, just use keywords when you are applying to those jobs so they can align with those healthcare roles that you are applying for.
Utilize your cover letter.
Yeah.
Utilize your cover letter to explain that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And also you could, so if you're going to switch, if you're doing any kind of trainings or certifications, volunteer work, internships.
Add that all on there.
Put all of that on there.
For the new industry.
Yes,
what you're
for the new
doing,
industry.
like
Anything,
building on.
yeah, that's how you try to transition, things that you're doing to prepare to go into that industry. And then, like she said, utilizing the tools and the skills that you learned in that other career to tie them into what else you're gonna do.
Yeah.
I have great customer service skills because I did this. I have, tying those things together, because across all industries, you still need to have a basic set of core
Right.
skills.
Yeah.
It's just the actual discipline that you're learning is
Different.
is different, but you still need core skills. Customer
And then
service
friend the
and-
people who are in the new industry on
Right.
LinkedIn. Got it.
Yes, there you go.
Yes, connect with people on LinkedIn for sure.
So for me, I've been in the same company and same department for a long amount of time. So of course, every position promotion requires a new interview, even though they may know me, know what I've done. So the resume part is hard because I'm like, how many of these positions do I need to keep? I mean, they know what I've done, but where do I cut it off? Where do I cut off
They
history?
know what you've done, but when I do internal interviews, I say at the beginning of each interview, I know you, and I know you've interviewed with me before, and you know how this goes, but you need to present to me as if I don't know you.
Right.
Every time is new. It doesn't matter if you think they know you, but they may know of you. They may not know specific details as to why you might fit this other position. So you still go into it every time as brand new. And even though you've been there a while and worked your way, you want to showcase the fact that you worked your way up. That's a good thing. It's different from when you worked your way from outside the company, you have 15 jobs on there. But if you've been promoted from within, make sure you put that on your resume, because that's showing how you progressed through the company and they want to just keep elevating.
And put what you've done on there. Like, although they know you, it's a new job description. So put what you've done on there. Put stats on there. You said I was in charge of 60 XYZ things or 120 XYZ things. Put those things in there, because that's what's really gonna stick out, instead of just putting on there, yes, I've been here for XYZ years and I've done this. Put those stats in there, because that's gonna set you apart when they are looking over your resume. It's like, oh, I didn't know she did all this in these roles.
Right.
If you're just putting the roles and like the basic job description of what you did in those roles, it's like, okay, well, it's other people that work here that do that too.
Right.
Put those key stats in there to make it
you
stick
stand
out.
out. Yeah. All right, so done the application, you got your resume done, your social media's together. I want to mention, I know I mentioned before we officially started, but again, your email addresses, making sure that you have a professional email address. His baby mama 69,
Not a good one.
Sexy Red 24, don't stop, get it 85.
Leave it alone. Leave it
Please.
alone. It's okay to have
It's
a
so easy to
professional
create
and
an
a
email
personal.
account. So just go to Gmail and create a professional email account that just is your last and first name, maybe the year you were born, and leave it at that. We don't need to know what you were doing in college in your email address. We don't need to know that.
It's okay to have multiple emails. I have a personal email and then I also have a professional email. So that's something to think in mind. It's like, oh, I don't want to get a new email. Okay, the email is just for jobs.
Right.
So just get a professional email. It's just for jobs.
Right. So finally, you've done all that stuff and you get the interview. So this is the meat of it. So you want to be prepared for your interview. I mentioned earlier, making sure you're knowing what you're applying for. When you get in the interview, you should have taken the time to research the position and the company that you have applied for. So if you're really interested in getting the position, take your time and do the research. Even if it's an entry-level job, even if it's a fast food job, don't go to McDonald's talking about Wendy's 4 for $4.
Yeah, don't do that.
Know what you're applying
That's
for.
very true.
And honestly, Zaxby's, you have to take a test about that.
Yeah, it is some companies that do make you test
A test about their menu.
So that's very true.
Chick-fil-A.
For me as a recruiter, I call and screen a lot of candidates too. I'm basically preparing them for the interview. So I always tell candidates, make sure you research the company. Go on the website, go on xyz.com, look at what their values are on there, because every company put their values on their website. Use some of those during the interview. They're like, oh, yeah, it's great. So it's really good to use company values during the interview. It's always best to ask, if you are speaking to a recruiter, like, oh, like what are some preparation questions do you feel like you could give me before you go in for the interview? I tell people all the time, oh, hiring managers will ask you questions like, tell me about a time you had to do X, Y, Z. Have those things already made up in your mind. Of course, they ask you what makes you want to work at this company. Just do not say, I want to work at this company because it's healthcare and I want to get in healthcare. What does that mean? There's so many healthcare companies out here. There's so many hospitals out here. Why this hospital? Why this company? It's 50 million companies that do the exact same thing. So why do you want to work at this one for this reason, for this company? So think about that when you are interviewing as well.
Appearance.
That's a big thing.
You do not have to show up in a 3-piece suit or stiletto heels and a dress down to your ankles. However, be neat, be clean.
That's the key thing, neat and clean.
Look like you want to be there. Don't look as if you just rolled out of bed with your ponytail hanging to the side and bags under your eyes. Just appear as if you want to have an interview and you want this job.
Yeah.
You don't have to be over the top, but it goes a long way if you put in extra effort to appear neat and clean. If you want to go a little bit extra, I love it when I see a young man come with a tie on.
Yeah.
He took the extra step to put a tie on. I love it when I see someone, the hair is brushed and, you're attentive and alert. Don't get on the interview dragging and looking like you partied all night long, as I saw on your social media the night before.
Even if it's a video interview, you still want to make sure that you are
Even
presentable for a video interview. Like
Yes.
make sure you're in a nice quiet area.
Yes.
You don't want Sue and Billy to walk into the room behind you while you're doing the interview, because now you're
in the
looking,
background and
trying to see what's going on.
Yeah,
you
we
know.
don't want that in the background. You need to make
Nice.
sure.
They have virtual backgrounds. Use one of those.
Even blur it out if you have to.
It's great.
Things happen. Sometimes there's background noise. Just apologize, acknowledge it, because we hear it.
Yes, we do hear it.
I apologize for that. They're cutting the grass. I apologize, and then keep it moving. Don't let it distract you from what you're saying, but apologize. Keep it moving. And that kind of rolls into my next point, is having confidence in your interview. So this is one of the main things I wanted to talk about. Because even if you're a student coming out of school, or I've had people that are 55 to 60 years old that are coming back into the workplace shaking like a leaf.
Yeah.
And some people just don't interview well. Sometimes you may be a great candidate, but you're just not good at speaking to people or speaking in front of people, and that's just not your thing. And that's fine. We get that. We understand that. If we've been interviewing for a while, we know when you're just a nervous candidate. However, you need to have confidence in your ability to do that job. Even if you're not confident in this interview, I need to know that when I ask you a question, your answers, you're
Right there.
because you're confident in your ability. It doesn't have anything to do with how you're interviewing per se.
Yes.
But I can see
Confidence.
through that and know that you're confident in your abilities with this job. So yes, it's fine. You can take a moment to answer, a pause. But for the most part, when I ask a question, I want to get a response and a thoughtful response, a response that lets me know that you know what you're talking about. So always answering questions thoroughly. So
Yes.
there's some sample questions in there. This is kind of these are entry level kind of. Some people we do panel style interviews and we do the same questions for every applicant to make it fair and across the board because we're the government. So we don't want any smoke. And so anybody saying any kind of grievances or anything. So that's how we do it. Some companies don't do it that way. They may just let everybody ask random questions. However, no matter what the situation is, you still need to be able to answer the question thoroughly. Don't ever, I've had people that say, can I come back to that question?
Don't do that.
Don't do that. It seems like it's a perfectly logical ask, but no, it's not. Because I now know that you weren't prepared to answer that question,
yes.
and you had to think about it. Especially when a lot of questions may be kind of like personality questions. Some of them aren't going to be specific to the job. They're personality questions, so we can get a gauge on who you are and how you act in certain situations. Just because you're a student or you're the oldest person in the room, there is something you can draw from in your experience in life to answer a question. I cannot stand somebody answering a question without answering the question.
That's a great question. That's a great
So
question.
can y'all throw a question at me so I can see if I can answer it? I haven't, I've only had probably 3 job interviews in my life and I'm 52, so.
So I'll give you one that people struggle with. Tell us of a time when you had to work with a difficult person and how you handled or resolved the situation. I'm gonna give you a bad example. Let me give you a bad example of this answering this question. I really haven't come into contact with anybody like that.
Because yes, you have.
Really?
Yes, you have.
Even as a student, you've come in contact with a difficult person. Don't say that. Give me an answer of a time.
Well, the environment I came out of is teamwork, and you do have your own work. However, I work in healthcare. We should be looking out for all the patients as if they're our patient. I had a team member that really wasn't helping me and wasn't doing their work at all. And anytime you asked them, they were snappy. And so I thought, okay, I need to figure out what's going on. Like, did I do something? Like, what's the problem here? So when everything was calm and nobody was mad at each other, I pulled them to the side and said, hey, seems like we're having a hard time working together. Is there something that I can do to make it better for me and you so we can make it better for these patients? And that person was like, really? You think we're not doing well together? Why do you think that? And I could have just said, oh, well, maybe I'm wrong, but I started to give them examples, trying not to point the finger, and they didn't even realize that they were doing that. And so it got somewhat better after that. You know, some people's personality is just that maybe that's just the way they are, but it did get better, and it made me feel better that they at least were helping some.
Okay. Now that would be a good answer. It was thorough. You answered my question. You told me of a time. You told me how you handled it, how you resolved it. A lot of times people, don't give me a half answer and don't say that you never had that experience. Or let's see, answering the question without answering the question would be every job has difficult people you don't get along with.
Yes.
So sometimes you just have to take it to your supervisor or just be grown-ups and work.
No.
That is not answering my question.
Right, because really said, tell me about a time,
Yeah.
not an overall explanation. Tell me about a time.
How do you feel about, some questions are lengthy, they may be 3 kind of things, and you wanna make sure you hit your points, because you wanna be thorough. How do you feel about people coming in with maybe like a notepad and maybe writing down the question, or like, just maybe like, for instance, making sure what it was, how did I resolve it? And just so to make sure that as a person that's being interviewed, I am answering the questions because I may be nervous. How do y'all feel about that?
That's fine.
Yeah. That's fine.
That's taking an extra step and letting me know that you're really invested in what you're doing
Right.
and trying to have a good interview. That's fine.
That's like people coming in with a notepad that already has questions in it because
Right.
you looked up the company and you want to know X, Y, Z, so you already have your questions prepared. So doing that as well, just writing down what we're saying, just so you can be prepared, that is perfectly fine, just as long as you're not taking 2 minutes after the fact
Right.
to
Right.
answer said question.
Right. So 2 things about interviews. If it's really quick, you didn't get the job.
Yeah.
It
I
shouldn't-
could, yeah.
It
As a
shouldn't be too
recruiter,
fast.
after 2 minutes, like as a recruiter, just me personally, after 2 minutes of talking to you, I already know if I want to send you to the hiring manager or not, just based off of your tone and your confidence and probably one question that I asked you, I
Right.
already know. So it's just one of those things to where we just know.
Right. And you should take your cues. Like, just like we're paying attention to you, you should pay attention to the people that are interviewing. And if it seems like that, because I don't know, I wear my emotions on my face. So I try to keep the poker face. But if you are boring and drawing it out and I am just ready to get it over, I'm pretty sure it looks as if I want to die and get it over. So, take the cues. If they're not asking you, like, follow-up questions, or if they're not, if they're just
Engaged.
like engaged with you and they're just like, If you give a short answer and they give you a back, then probably you're not doing so
Switch
well.
it up.
So
Switch
switch it up, because you may reel them back in at the end. You can be thorough, but don't be drawn out. So I've had people that they're giving me the answer to the question and then some. I just need the answer and then let's move on. We don't need the whole life history behind it, each step that took place, why you did it that way, what happened in your past that made you lead to that decision. Like, we don't need all of that, because our time is valuable, just as yours is. So we don't want to just draw it out and draw it out and draw it out. So for students who may be inexperienced, same thing when answering questions. There's always an answer that you can give, drawing from your educational experience or your time in high school or college. The same questions that we ask the most experienced applicant apply to you as well.
Yeah.
Use your experiences in school when you had a difficult professor. Use your experiences when you had to work on a team project and you couldn't get it done. Use your classes that you've had on certain things and how that ties into life lessons. Use those things. There is always an answer to the question, no matter what your age is. Do not walk into a room thinking that because you're young or inexperienced or don't have the job history that you may not be the best candidate. You have to have the confidence that the experiences that you have had will get you into that door. And even if this is not a formula for yes, you got the job, but it just gives you the confidence so when you go into these interviews, you leave a mark and you'll get more and more, the more you
Get
do
better.
it,
Yeah.
the more you do it, you build that skill and you'll feel better and more confident each time you go in. And then when you do walk into that room for your dream job, it won't be an issue because you know that you used all your skills that you could bring to the table. You said you having a notepad that leads, asking the interviewer questions. Normally at the end of the interview, they'll ask you, do you have any questions for us? I hate when they be like, no.
Please ask. It's just one, even if it's one question.
Right, no.
You can just say, how do you like it here?
Right.
I hear that question so much, and you asked it. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Just
What
ask
is
one question.
What is your
It's
day to
fine.
day here? What is it like a day in your position? I had somebody say, well, I was reading your core values and your mission statement, and I was wondering, how do you tie that? And I was like, whoa, what?
Great question.
She was like, how do you tie that into your day? And I was like, yeah, it's higher. Like, so.
Well, let me figure out the answer.
So it shows the interviewers that you're like I said, you're invested, you're engaged. This is something that you really want. You're really interested in this. So that's just when you're doing your research, come up with some questions that you can ask. Not just making it about salary all the time, or schedule. Just like that, you're really interested in what is being done. And I said salary. There is nothing wrong with trying to negotiate your salary, but let me give you a tip on is how you do things.
Yes.
So I ask the salary question at the end of my interview, and sometimes it's when I lose people. But I had a guy the other day, he tickled me because we were in the middle of an interview. I tell him the potentials, this is an entry level position. He did not have any experience in this field. He was an engineer, but he didn't have the experience for this position that we had. So he had no skills whatsoever, but he just knows as an engineer, he should, maybe they make a little bit more, blah, blah, blah. And so I get to the salary part and he said, I don't think I can do it at that amount. I'm gonna have to decline. And I was so confused because I was like,
anything.
I haven't offered you anything.
That does, yeah. People automatically think once you start talking about pay that they got the
And
job.
this is the thing. A lot of times with the government, it is set in stone, but sometimes it's not. So even if he had a problem with the salary, I might have been able to go to my boss and negotiate for him.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the way he responded, I didn't bother. I pulled his application. We didn't go any further. He was the better qualified candidate out of the 3 I did that day. But his attitude and how he responded to it, the 3 managers and me, we decided, because now I know that you're coming into my company with already an air of arrogance, with an attitude, and so you have to be careful. There's, like I said, there's nothing wrong with advocating for yourself. Yeah, try to get more money if you can. There is nothing wrong with that. But it's how you do it. It's how you say it, how you present, because just like that, I just pulled it out. No,
Correct, yes.
put decline in the file, and we never discussed it again, because there may, it may be a small pool, it may be a large pool, but you don't want to get yourself disqualified with how you say something.
And don't be inconsistent. Let's say if you are speaking to a recruiter and you say, oh, I'm looking for $20 an hour, but then you go and speak to the hiring manager, we already noted that you said you're looking for $20 an hour. But if you go and speak to the hiring manager and they start talking to you about pay, you're like, yeah, I was looking for around like 30. Your
Right.
paper says 20. Your
Right.
paper says 20. So at that time when you are speaking to a recruiter before you actually get to a hiring manager interview, you want to make sure that your whatever pay that you have in your mind, that is what you are telling the recruiter of what you're wanting to make. Because after the fact, if I put that on that paper and then now you're telling someone something different, it's inconsistent. It's not aligning. So now it's like, okay, they don't know what they want. So let's look for someone else that we can pay because they don't know what they want.
And be reasonable. Be reasonable in the fact of what you know your skill set is.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, he didn't have the skill. He knew through the whole entire interview, he kept saying, I don't know anything about this, but I'm eager to learn.
Yeah.
And that's fine to say that. I like when they say, I'm a quick learner, I'm eager to learn, I can learn this. That is totally fine. But if you know you don't have the skill set to come in at this level, you don't be like, well, I think you need to pay me $75,000. Like, no, you be reasonable and honest about what your skill set is. Because when we do a job requisition, the pay range is on the job requisition. So you're coming in knowing what range you're in anyway. So don't come to the interview or get to the hiring manager and you're saying these ridiculous amounts just to see if you can get it. Because no, you can't. Just because now I don't have time to play these games with you.
Yes.
So be reasonable and think about that.
A question about answering questions. How do you all feel about the question at the end of an interview that a candidate might ask and say, is there anything that I can answer or clarify for you that's making you hesitant in considering me for this job?
Yes, because that does happen, and that does happen. If you feel like you're like, oh, I don't think I answered something to the best of my ability. So towards the end of the interview, and you ask that, I would say, well, yes, on this question, you really didn't elaborate. It was just really one worded. So I'll ask it again and have you elaborate on it. I mean, in that sense that it doesn't mean like, oh, after this, oh, I'm gonna move forward with you or I'm not gonna move forward. It's just you put in that extra effort to think, I don't think I gave a very thorough answer. So let me ask to see if I can go ahead and provide additional information. That's perfectly fine. It's just towards the end of the interview, if you are asking those type of questions, you're really trying to boost yourself up at that point. So asking that, it's like, oh, I like that they asked that. Now I can really think about to see, I should go ahead and I should go and push them forward. Because towards the end, I was probably thinking, reject. So
Maybe in the-
it
on the
is.
fence.
So it is. It can put you in there to where it's like, oh,
And
now I
that's
want
better
to
than
consider
saying, can
you.
we come back to the question? That's just
Yeah.
a different way of getting back to it. Once the interview is ended, y'all have asked questions, making sure that you're thanking the interviewer for the opportunity for, to have opportunity at that company, making sure that you're polite and courteous, and follow-up communication. So, when I say follow-up communication, that does not mean calling me
50 times.
50 times saying, have a make decision.
Don't do that.
What I mean, what makes an impression on, because that annoys me. Because most times they'll tell you at the end when we're done interviewing, we'll get in contact with you regardless. You get a letter, or I'll call you, or I'll email you. So I've already told you that. So don't keep calling me. When I say follow-up communication, I mean taking the time to send an email. Because most times I've sent you an email verifying your interview. So
Yes.
you have my email. Send an interview. Please forward to all hiring managers. Thank you for the opportunity to interview with your company. I really enjoyed blah, blah, blah. Just a short little paragraph to let me know that you put in that extra time to come in and thank me for my time and to just leave an impression in my mind, because I remember those people that send me follow-up emails. And then I forward them on to anybody else that was on the panel, and I place them in the recruitment folder and their personnel file if they get hired. So those kind of things, just to take that extra step. It's not necessarily set in stone that you have to do that. But when sometimes you may have applicants that are running neck and neck, and you're looking for the thing that sets that one person apart, and that one extra step could put you above the rest by just taking that extra step and sending that email, taking that extra step and asking that extra question, taking that extra step. Those kinds of things are what set you apart, because a lot of times if you're doing entry-level positions, if you're a student in college, if you're in high school, if in the same age range of people, y'all might have the same exact answers. You may have the same kind of credentials. You need something that is going to set you apart, and you don't want it to be something negative that sets you apart. So those types of things, just following up with that email, that stands out to me. That puts you above the rest.
Just quickly reverting back to calling. Like when you apply for a position and someone calls you and you don't answer, do not call back 10 times in a row. Please call back one time, and if they do not answer, leave a voice message. As a recruiter or a hiring manager, we literally have to call you back. It is our job to connect with you. So do not call more than one time after someone calls you and they do not answer.
Right. Or
It's very important.
and then
Because you will get
reverse.
blocked.
And reverse. And then reverse. I don't want to have to call you 18 times. If I called you and I left a voicemail, be courteous enough to call me back.
Yes.
And even if it's to say that you're not interested, call back and say, I'm no longer interested in the position. I don't want to have to keep calling you. And then when I finally get you, I had been busy.
My job, 3 attempts.
Right.
3 attempts.
Right. I don't want to have to keep calling you trying to get you scheduled for an interview. First of all, it's hard enough to get interviews scheduled when it's my schedule, 2 other managers, plus your schedule. So I've already mapped out these time frames, and then when you don't answer the phone, I move on to the next person, and I'm filling my slots.
Yes.
So you might want to answer the phone. Sometimes, in rare occasions, there's people that have a skill set that we really are interested in interviewing for. So in those occasions, I had one recently. We were holding out for this lady, and when I called her, she didn't answer. When I finally got her, her dad had died. So I didn't want to keep calling her, but but she was telling me, no, call back, no, next week after the funeral, I really need this job, blah blah blah. And then I told her, I said, no, I don't feel comfortable calling you, but she was insistent that I call her back, and then I never could get her on the phone. But we were holding the position because the managers were really interested in her resume. So like I said, if you're not interested in a position, or if something changes, just having the courtesy to say.
Yeah.
You can even send an email if
Yeah.
you're uncomfortable with calling. Just send a quick email like, hey, thank you, but I found another position, or I'm not ready right now.
The time is valuable because you never know what may happen in the future. I've had a lot of applicants that have withdrawn their application because something came up, like they were going to move to this town and they didn't, and I've seen them again on multiple occasions. Okay, so now they want to move, and I'm going to remember the experience with you last time. So if last time you gave me the runaround, I'm not going to take my time to try to interview you again.
Right.
You gave me the runaround. I had another one. He's applied maybe 3 or 4 different times. He's supposed to move here, and then something happened. So at this point, my boss is like, we're never going to pull his application again. Remind me. So now there's a notation. So that's why I say that, because you never know what's gonna happen in the future and who you have to
That's
come back
true.
around to. You need to leave a positive, experience so that, just in case that happens, don't leave things on a negative note.
Keep that in mind for yourself too. If you are applying to positions and you can't get in contact with anyone after they probably called you once and you're like, why can't I get in contact with a recruiter or someone from HR and they called me this one time? So then that also puts a bad notation in your mind, like maybe this company is not a good company to work for. So always keep that in mind as well, because us as recruiters and someone in HR, it's literally our jobs to get candidates in. So if you feel like that someone contacted you and they're not getting back with you, that position is probably not for you, because they're basically leaving you hanging. Like, just like we don't like candidates to leave us hanging, don't let a recruiter or someone else leave you hanging as well.
Right.
Any questions? Sorry. Y'all asked them throughout.
Yeah. Cool. It's good interaction. Okay.
Okay, so as a senior in college, like when do I stop putting like my like high school accomplishments on my resume, or do I keep them until like?
If it's pertinent to the job you're applying for, put it on there. If it was something that will tie you academically to what you're trying to get into, then you can put it on there. Now, once you get like 30, don't still.
Yeah, don't still put
it. But if it's an entry level position and then you don't have any job experience, that's what I would look for. I'm looking for your educational experience, what you did, like I said, internship, volunteer work, projects that you led, things that you worked on that tie into the position that you're trying to get into because I know you're a student, I know you don't have the job history, so what is it in your education that you did that prepared you for this position that you're trying to get?
Like if you had like accomplishments in your high school, like salutatorian or valedictorian, would you put that on there or no? Is it not like?
It's honestly not necessary.
It's not
I would
necessary.
say it's honestly not necessary.
Yeah.
If you have any type of like volunteer work from high school that you did, or certifications that you did, like, oh, you got certified in Microsoft and Excel in high school, put that on there.
Right.
But anything as far as you were valedictorian or XYZ, it honestly, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't.
We're looking for the real world tie-in to what you're trying to do. So, yeah, probably not.
Any other questions?
Okay.
I have one more.
Okay.
If someone is trying to create a resume for the very first time, do you recommend any websites or a format somewhere they can go to help them, establish that initial resume? To format it correctly?
I would say
some crazy ones.
That's true. You could look at resume formats, but don't copy a resume.
Right.
LinkedIn is another good source for your resume, because it will kind of build it out for you based off of what you've put in LinkedIn, and then you need to format it to fit, the way it should look. But that's also a good resume kind of building tool, because it has an option for you to make it into your resume, and you'll see it, and then so maybe like print it, clean it up a little bit, build up off of that. But yeah, never.
But you can tell when someone's resume is basically a copy paste. You can, you can literally tell. I'm like, this resume is off Google, right? It's just something. It's something about the formatting, the way
it's something they build it into the formatting, so you just
from Google.
know that it was. Yes.
So my resume is currently from a Word template, so I should get rid of it?
That's fine.
That's fine. No,
Word
just
template
mean
is
don't
fine.
use like automated services to try to build it for you, because you can tell.
Because Word templates, like Microsoft Word, they have a lot of different resume formats. That's great to use that, honestly. But if you are trying to reference a resume, don't copy and paste it and then start editing it. Just reference it, like look at it, reference.
Yeah.
What about a high school student trying to apply for it?
You still use things that you learned in school to tie into the application, like
Courses you've taken.
Like Shalice is in the culinary program, so she can use that, and she's certified. So she used those types of things. So like you're trying to get a first time job, you can tell them, I'm only 15, but I'm in the early college program, I've maintained straight A's, blah, blah, blah. You can use those types of things to show them that you're a responsible young man.
Sports.
Yeah, team sports mean you're a team player, you know how to work well with others. So those are the kind of things that
If
you
you're in
talk
high
about.
school and your resume is this long, it's fine.
Right,
It's fine, honestly, it is.
right.
Just have a whole lot of job experience.
But you're not school experience, so you.
Any other questions? Well, this has been great. Thank you for being interactive and asking questions.
So y'all stay here a minute. The River City Christian Ministries would like to thank Candy and Lamone for really sharing their gifts that God has given them. This has been a great session. This will be uploaded on the River City Christian Ministries YouTube page. And also you can go online to River City Christian Ministries website and also find it there. It would be great if you guys came out to visit. Come visit us and meet these people with these great talents who are using them for God. So we really want to thank you too. You know, I've only had like 3 jobs, maybe 4 in my whole life if I count McDonald's, my whole life, and I'm 52. So I've not done a lot of interviews. So I really appreciate you guys coming out because I did not have this resource. So let's give them a round of applause. And we'll go ahead and close with a prayer. Let's pray. Dear God, thank you so much for today, God. Thank you for getting us here through the rain, God. God, I pray the rain just helps our city bloom and grow and that we can be grateful for it, God. Thank you for today. I pray that everything that Candy and Lamone have taught us today, that we're able to use it, God, and that people can not only see our talents when it comes to work and getting jobs and interviews, but they can see that your spirit is living in us, and that is what helps us stand out the most. God, thank you so much. It's in your son's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right.